Good evening, and welcome to the 2025 DC Bar President-elect Virtual Candidate Forum. My name is Eric Tarosky. I am a practicing commercial litigation attorney based here in Washington, DC, and I am also a member of the steering committee of the bar's early career lawyers community. I look forward to being the moderator for this evening's event. Joining me on Zoom, of course, are our two president-elect candidates, Mr. Brad Bondi and Ms. Diane Seltzer. I will ask the candidates to introduce themselves in just a moment, but before we do that, I would like to provide a brief overview of the format and rules for tonight's conversation. First, tonight's event is being recorded, and the recording will be made available through the bar's channels in the coming days. Live captioning of the event is also available for anyone who may need it. The majority of tonight's program will consist of the candidates responding to questions that were submitted by the audience during the registration process. All of the questions submitted were reviewed by the staff of the Bar Association, who then selected the list of questions to be asked as part of our program. As a reminder, the Bar Association does not endorse any candidate running for president-elect or any other position. To begin, I will ask each candidate to give a brief opening statement lasting no longer than 2 minutes. We will begin in alphabetical order, so we will hear first from Brad and then from Diane. After our openings, we'll begin our pre-selected questions in the reverse order, so beginning with Diane and then Brad. I will then alternate the order for each subsequent question. All questions will be posed to both candidates, and candidates will have 2 minutes to respond to each question, although they're certainly not required to use the full time for each question. In order to make the most out of our time this evening and to make sure both candidates have an equal chance to address the audience, I will interrupt as necessary if a candidate exceeds their time for a question. For the last approximately 10 minutes of the program, we will have a live virtual Q&A session for which our audience can submit questions via the chat function in Zoom. You may submit questions through the chat at any time. Please note that the submissions through the chat will not be visible to the audience. Because of time constraints and in the spirit of fairness, we ask that all submitted questions be written so that they may be asked of both candidates. Candidates will then have 90 seconds to respond to each of the questions. Once we have concluded the Q&A, we will then hear closing remarks from both candidates in the opposite order from the openings, so beginning with Diane and then ending with Brad. Each candidate will again have 2 minutes for the closing statements. So with that out of the way, let's jump right into it. Brad, I will turn the floor over to you for your 2 minutes opening statement.
Thank you, Eric, and I'd like to thank the nominating committee of the DC Bar for selecting me as a candidate. I appreciate this chance to offer some thoughts on what is at stake for all of our members in this election. I'm running to lead our bar with the same care that I brought to serving my clients, to teaching at Georgetown and George Mason law schools, to raising my 5 children, and to serving you through the corporation finance and securities law community as a 3-time elected member of the steering committee. I need your vote to keep our bar apolitical as it's meant to be, and I need you to spread the word to your colleagues. My vision for the bar is an association that works better and more streamlined for all of us. Free on-demand CLEs to ease the burden of multi-jurisdictional licenses. Instant, no-cost certificates of good standing to cut through the red tape. A more accessible ethics hotline with clear guidance and expanded pro bono opportunities to reflect our shared commitment to justice. These are practical enhancements that will make our busy professional careers easier, and they are the fundamentals of service that every member can count on. I poured my heart into this community, from endowing a diversity scholarship at the University of Florida Law School in 2019 to creating a UVA Memorial Award in 2024 for my late colleague, Tracy Zeller, whose inspiration and encouragement made me want to run for the bar last spring. But this election isn't about my plans. It's about the soul of our bar, and I fear, unfortunately, that we're at a crossroads. My opponent has politicized this race in a way that should trouble all of us. Her allies are spreading irresponsible fabrications, claiming I'm conspiring with political forces because of my older sister's role as the Attorney General. Claims that are as baseless as they are beneath the dignity of our bar. These tactics aren't just unfair to me and my children, they're an affront to the principles we hold dear as lawyers: fairness, evidence, and civility. The bar's mission and purpose has always been nonpartisan, apolitical organization, a refuge where we can all come together to support each other, not to fight over national politics. The bar, as a mandatory bar association, must, under its rules, remain apolitical. That's why the current DC Bar president, the former DC Bar president, and the president-elect have not made political statements. Neither will I. Yet my opponent's approach is about taking us down a path of diversion, of division, one for which the bar may never take hold if it is allowed to hold. I pledge to you that the bar will remain non-political, that it will not succumb to political forces internally or external, and it will remain a bar for service for its members. Thank you, and I appreciate your support.
Thank you, Brad. Diane, I will turn the floor over to you. I also will note, I will give you 3 minutes for your opening. I didn't want to interrupt opening statements, as is typically good form. So 3 minutes for your opening, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Thanks. Hi, everyone, and I am so appreciative that you are here and that you care and that you're engaged. I can't see who's here, but I probably know you, or a lot of you, because I have been very active in the bar for a long time. I've been on the Board of Governors now for 5 years. I'm on the executive committee right now. I have been on the budget committee and the compensation subcommittee. I've chaired the CLE committee for 3 of the past 13 years, was vice chair, was on the committee for 12 of the past 13 years. We have to roll off every 6 years, this is my off year. And know so many of you because of all the CLEs I've taught. And I've been involved in the bar in other committees as well: communities, screening, nominations, strategic plan 2020 to 25. And the list goes on, because the bar is something that really matters to me, as do its members. Right now, we are in a time of governmental chaos, and our members don't feel safe to practice law. So my platform is, and has been, and I'm very vocal about it, is to make sure that we maintain and uphold the rule of law, and that people feel that they can practice law safely without worrying about executive orders, or without retaliation, or without being targeted in any possible way by the government. That's what's on the minds of our members. I know this because I've spoken with so many of us, had so many conversations where people are just afraid, and judges too. Judges are being asked to not be impartial and to be loyalists. And you know, my platform is, I'm not going to have it. We are able and should continue to be able to practice law without any fear, and judges should be able to issue rulings without any fear. So that's what I stand for, and that's what matters to our members. And I've been asked, okay, what are we going to do? I don't know all the answers yet, because I wouldn't take the position of president for another year, but I would work on it with the current board and leadership, figuring out what can we do, because we have First Amendment restrictions on what we can say, and we want to make sure that we're doing right by our members. But what I can tell you is, in my personal capacity, my firm has signed amicus briefs supporting all of the firms who've gotten executive orders, and I'm very outspoken on my commitment to the rule of law, and to figuring out together with our members, what can the bar do to make sure we are all comfortable practicing law and representing whoever we want to represent. So that's my platform. A couple other things I want to do. I want to strengthen our relationships with the voluntary bars and see what we can do with them to support them, and to increase engagement across the voluntary bar in a partnership with our mandatory bar. I've been very active getting to know people in the voluntary bar associations these past few months, And they do a lot, and they have a lot that they can offer, and I think we have a lot to offer them. Our bar is stellar. We could easily just cash a check, take dues, and let everyone practice law. But as will become evident through tonight, we offer so much more than that. We're a really high functioning organization, and we have a lot to offer. I hope to lead you in those offerings.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you both for your opening statements. Before we begin our questions, I did want to just mention one thing to our audience. Please submit questions for the Q&A through, go figure, the Q&A function in Zoom, not the chat function. I was reminded they're different things, so please through the Q&A function. So let's jump right into our questions, and I will again be keeping us at a hard 2 minutes here, please, so be mindful of that. Again, as we discussed in advance, the first question we will start with Diane, and then Brad, you will go second. So beginning with you, Diane, can you please tell us what are your plans to improve and expand access to justice?
Right. Well, expanding access to justice means that people need to feel that they can participate in activities without any kind of retaliation, without any kind of retribution. So we want to, for example, encourage people to work at our pro bono or volunteer at our pro bono clinic, assisting people with immigration needs. We need to make sure that people feel safe doing so. So that's something that I want to make sure, so that attorneys can represent people, can volunteer without worrying about the consequences of doing so. That certainly increases access to justice. Supporting our pro bono center and other legal organizations in the city, either by volunteering or making sure that they are funded, or doing appeals for money, so that these organizations, which are critical to providing access to justice to lower or moderate income people, so that they can continue to function in the time of budget cuts and economic and political unrest. But I think that's the way, is that we make people feel safe in volunteering. We have so many opportunities to volunteer. I don't think we have a lack of that, but it's making sure that people feel comfortable doing this work. That's going to be the challenge in increasing access to justice for the foreseeable future.
Thank you, Diane. Brad, the same question to you. What are your plans to improve and expand access to justice?
Access to justice is at the heart of why I became a lawyer nearly 27 years ago. And it's why I'm running for this position, to ensure that every one of our 120,000 members can help bridge the gap for those who need it most. I'll expand pro bono programs, making it easier for lawyers in big firms and solo practitioners alike to take on cases for the underserved communities, because I've seen how those hours, over 100,000 pro bono and volunteer hours myself in my career, can change lives. I'll also streamline resources like free on-demand CLEs, so every lawyer, no matter their resources, can stay sharp and up to date on the legal issues and serve clients effectively, especially those who can't afford legal help. We'll enhance initiatives like DC Refers to connect modest means clients with affordable lawyers, ensuring that no one is left behind.
Thank you, Brad. We will stay with you for our next question, and it's a topic that you both briefly touched on in your previous answer. So, Brad, I know in your candidate bio, you mentioned a desire to expand the bar's pro bono opportunities. So could you tell us what types of pro bono opportunities you would like to expand and how you would go about doing so?
Thank you. I appreciate this question particularly because pro bono has been at the cornerstone of my 26 years in DC. It's where I've seen the law's power to heal and to uplift, and I want every member to feel that too. I'll expand opportunities in areas where the need is greatest: housing to help families facing eviction stay in their homes, immigration to support vulnerable newcomers navigating complex systems, family law to assist with custody or domestic violence cases that can change a child's life forever, veterans to ensure that veterans have access to the top legal minds. I personally have been involved in helping veterans and veterans groups and promoting adoption and foster care. Those are issues that are near and dear to my heart as a father of an Air Force veteran and as a father of 2 adopted children. one of which we took in as an older child. So pro bono is extraordinarily important to me, and I want to make it the cornerstone here of my presidency. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Diane, you also touched on pro bono in your response to the first question. So the same question to you. What types of pro bono opportunities would you look to fostering at the bar?
Okay. Our pro bono center has so many opportunities, and it is so high functioning, and it has been for years. I mean, I'm looking on our website: an advice and referral clinic, an advocacy and justice clinic, bankruptcy clinic, family law assistance network, housing right to counsel project, immigration legal advice and referral clinic, legal information helpline, that's nonprofit and small business legal assistance, future planning, and probate program. And those are just some of the opportunities, not to mention things like the Youth Law Fair Day and other ways that we can get involved in the community. So we have plenty that we offer. The issue is twofold that I would see: making sure people know these opportunities exist so that they can actually volunteer, and making sure that our pro bono center is adequately funded so we can continue to give the opportunities that we give by having the staff which runs it so well. But there's no lack of opportunities. I think we have incredibly high participation by our bar members, but I also think people have to know what's available. What can I do on a given day? Because maybe, what if it's not my practice area? Well, don't worry, we'll find something for you to do. So, of course, being on the board of governors, I'm on the board of directors of the Pro Bono Center as well. And I think the opportunities are legion. I don't think there's any shortage, especially again for a mandatory bar. The things that we offer and the things that we do and the opportunities we give are tremendous. We just need to make sure people are actually getting involved, getting engaged, and they are. We can always increase it. We could always use more help and more money. And I'm happy to lead the efforts to get both.
And thank you. And the next question will also go to you first, Diane. As president, how would you support initiatives like DC Refers, which connects affordable lawyers to clients of modest means?
Yeah, I think it's really a very similar answer. I think it's making sure people know that these opportunities exist and then getting them to want to take advantage of them. There's other agencies in the city, like there's legal aid. I mean, we have a lot of opportunities to give back time. So in terms of supporting initiatives, I think the important thing is meet with their leadership and ask them, what can we do to help? I don't pretend to have all the answers. I'm an employment lawyer. I work, I raised children. I talk to my colleagues, but I always think if you need something or if you want to help someone, you ask them what they need. So that would be the first conversation: is tell us what we can do, and then let's see if we can do it.
Thank you. Brad, same question. As president, how would you support initiatives like DC Refers, which, again, for our audience's sake, connects affordable lawyers to clients of modest means?
Thank you. DC Refers is the kind of program that makes me proud to be part of this bar. It's a lifeline for clients of modest means, and I've seen how it changes lives by connecting them with affordable lawyers. It's an incredibly great program. As president-elect, I've supported by increasing funding and visibility, ensuring more lawyers know about it and can join that effort, whether they're in big law or a small practice. I'd also work to streamline the referral process with better technology. We've come a long way, but we can do better, making it easier to connect for clients, to help them find lawyers to take on their cases without any hassle. We'll offer CLEs focused on the skills needed for modest means clients, like handling housing and debt issues, so that our members can feel ready to step in to represent clients in those areas. My goal is to make DC Refers a beacon of access to justice, a program where every member feels proud to support. And there's something else I'd like to add. I want the DC Bar to lead the nation in the amount of pro bono hours given by its members. That's my goal, and I think we can get there.
Thank you both. Brad, keeping with you, our next question is, what have you done by way of engagement with the DC Bar in the past of which you are the most proud?
Wonderful. Well, thank you. I'm proud to be a member of the DC Bar, and I'm proud to be your candidate. I've been part of the bar for around 26 years, and one of my proudest moments was serving on the steering committee of the Corporation Finance and Securities Law community through 3 elected terms. It was a chance to bring lawyers together from big law to solo practice, to learn, to share, and to grow. I worked hard to create programs that welcomed everyone, like panels on securities law that drew diverse voices and fostered mentorship for younger attorneys, something that I've always cared about deeply. And that comes from the heart because I'm a professor, an adjunct professor part-time. I'm also proud of the consistent time that I've spent on pro bono through the bar. I volunteered and spent over 100,000 hours on both pro bono and volunteer efforts, helping particularly families in need, adoption issues, and veterans issues. I served as a big brother as a young associate at Williams and Conley, and ultimately that child that was my big brother became my adopted son. I was honored by the White House for my efforts in 2008 in volunteering in the DC community. Those moments showed me the power to unite all of us in service. And that's what's important to me, and that's what I'm most proud of. I'm most proud of the service that I've done for people in need.
Thank you, Brad. Diane, same question to you. What is your proudest accomplishment by way of engagement with the DC Bar?
Right. So with the DC Bar, I've been very engaged, and I know I went over it already, and I don't want to repeat everything again. But being on the board the past 5 years and being on the executive committee obviously is something I'm proud of, because we led the bar out of COVID, and we functioned so well as a board during COVID because of the people with whom I am on the board and serve with. And watching us figure it out, really building the airplane as we were flying it, with being the biggest bar, the biggest mandatory bar in the country in the middle of a pandemic. And I credit the staff with how much we got accomplished. Obviously, the presidents who dealt with leading during that time, and the board members. And that's, of course, all the other people who were working as well. But we really just did not implode. We were shining during that situation. And it's because of who makes up leadership at the bar. I've also loved when I taught CLEs, which I've taught many, many of for the DC Bar over the past, I don't know how many years, and that people will write an email and say, that was so great. I learned so much. Thank you so much. That was terrific. People have become friends as a result of my meeting them through teaching. And so there's a lot of proud moments with the DC Bar, but I think just being a part of its leadership and working with people who are very talented, very capable, very bright, and have very high standards, and then seeing what our bar has become or continues to become as a result of everyone's working together. That's my proudest moment.
Thank you. And Diane, we'll keep with you, and you just touched on the importance of the members of our bar association. The next question is, how will you lead to assure that the bar and its leadership remains an inclusive place?
I think when you are a leader who people respect, people want to work with you, right? And that means all different kinds of people from all different kinds of practices, demographic backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds, geographic areas, everything. People see who the leaders are and they say, that's what I want to be a part of. And that's who I want to work with or do volunteer work with or serve on a committee on, or whatever it is. So by people understanding that the bar is an inclusive place and that leadership is diverse, and we do have people who do not all look like each other, and that's phenomenal. So I say we just keep that going. We understand that that's what our bar is, and that's what our leadership should look like, and making sure that everyone has opportunities and feels welcome and valued, and doesn't feel that I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too new, I'm at a big firm, I'm at a small firm, whatever it is, and whatever the characteristic is, that people know we have something that you can do to contribute, and we want you here. We want whatever it is that you can give. So that's my attitude, but I think it starts with people seeing what it looks like now, and that it's a very inclusive bar, and that we understand we want to keep it that way, and that the people who have been working together work well together probably because of all our different backgrounds, not in spite of.
Thank you. Brad, same question. How would you lead to assure that the bar and its leadership remains inclusive?
I love this question. Inclusivity isn't just a goal for me. It's the way I've lived my life. From adopting 2 diverse children of my 5 children to mentoring lawyers of all backgrounds over my 26 years in DC. One of my sons, my oldest son, I'm very proud of, is Black. My other son, another son, is Roma. And I'm damn proud of both of them and very protective of both of them. So I believe in diversity and I believe very much in inclusion. As president-elect, I'll lead by ensuring that every voice is heard, starting with leadership, appointing committee members who reflect our board's diversity, from practice areas to personal experiences, so that no one feels left out or excluded. We'll create mentorship networks that pair younger lawyers with veterans, fostering connections across generations and perspectives, lawyers of all ages. My promise is a bar where every lawyer feels that they belong, a place that lifts all of us up. And I'll lead with that spirit in everything I do every day.
Thank you. Moving on to our next question. How do you think the DC Bar should support our members who are facing professional transitions? And Brad, you'll kick us off with this one.
Professional transitions can be daunting. I've seen it, observed it in my 26 years, from colleagues shifting from solo practice to young lawyers finding their footing. And the bar should be there to hold us steady. I'd create tailored support programs like free CLEs focused on new skills for those expanding into new disciplines, ensuring they're equipped for change. We'll expand mentorship opportunities, pairing members in transition with more seasoned lawyers who can help guide them through the shift. Because I've seen how much a mentor's wisdom can mean. I've had a lot of mentors in my career, and they've been extraordinarily supportive and helpful to me. I'd also offer networking events and career workshops, online and in person, to help members build connections and find new paths. The bar should be a lifeline in those moments, helping every lawyer feel supported as they navigate their next chapter.
Thank you, Brad. Diane, how do you think the bar should support our members who are facing professional transitions?
It's become up more and more. I mean, I'm an employment lawyer and I see people who are getting terminated who did not expect it, particularly federal government employees who are, lost. And our bar has answered the call for helping them because that's what we do. We have a career assistance department that provides assistance. There have been some very targeted programs lately for people who are recently experiencing job loss. We also have a lawyer assistance program where people can get assistance in counseling and guidance. So I think the question is going to be, is it a professional transition that was planned? Like, are we talking to people who are retiring, who are downshifting, who don't quite know how to do that? Because all we've ever done is work at Mach 10, or these people who are facing unemployment that they did not plan for, that they did not expect. And either way, we should be there for them. And, I'm going to say it again, I'm a big fan of have the conversation as the leader of the bar with the people who need the services and say to them, what do you think? What would work? What do you need us to do that we can do? I don't pretend to have all of the answers, but I have a lot of questions. And I like to talk to people and listen to what they think. So I think we start with the Career Assistance Center, and I think we start with the Lawyer Assistance Program and the resources that the bar already has. And then we talk to people and say, what else do you need that we're not offering? I know we have other things about, we have, for new lawyers, for early career lawyers, we have a new community that can give them support. I think our moderator might have some involvement in that. And that's to, again, recognize at the beginning of your career, there are transitions as well. So I think we have a lot of resources out there. It's a matter of utilizing them and then seeing if we can build on it. But again, the focus has to be, are people in professional transition by choice or not? And then we go from there.
Thank you for the answer and for the unsolicited plug for the bar's early career lawyers community. If anyone listening is in their first 10 years of practice and not involved, please find me at some point so we can chat about that. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming. We're going to switch gears a little bit, and Diane, we'll begin with you for this next question. The question is, describe a time when you had to risk your job to do what was right ethically.
I have never had to. I'm a solo practitioner. I know the difference between right and wrong, and I have never fortunately been in that situation. So I don't really have I will always do what's ethical. I'm not going to compromise my standards, my bar license, the way people look at me, the way I look at myself. Certainly, there's just nothing that can make me do that. And I'm lucky that no one's been able or tried to put me in that position. So it's a short answer.
Well, let me follow up then. What would you do if faced with such a situation?
Oh, my ethics come first. I've never had a complaint by any disciplinary counsel. And to me, how can you how can you practice law if you have to go to sleep at night wondering if what you're doing is ethically wrong or against the rules of professional conduct as applied to every lawyer? So I can't even imagine being in that situation, but I would have no trouble quitting a job where someone is telling me your ethics or your job. It's my ethics every time.
Thank you. Brad, we'll turn to you with either the question as asked or the hypothetical of what you would do in a situation. So have you ever, um, uh, if you can, describe a time when you had to risk your job to do what was right ethically? If not, how would you respond in such a situation?
Thanks, Eric. I've never been in that circumstance where I felt that I had to risk my job to do what was right and ethically. I fortunately practiced at firms and organizations that operated ethically and that allowed me to operate ethically. The one thing that I love about being a lawyer is the ability to represent someone, no matter what's been said about them in the New York Times, and to represent someone zealously, because I believe that everyone is entitled to a lawyer. No matter what they're accused of doing, everyone's entitled to a lawyer. And that's something that's always been important and been a driving force in my life here. And that is to ensure everyone has access to a lawyer. I believe in the system. I believe in the legal system. I believe in the jury system. We're not a perfect system by any means, but we're a lot better than other systems around the world. And we have incredible lawyers here that are the reason why we have, I think, the best judicial system in the world. As far as to the hypothetical question, I would never, ever, ever compromise my ethics ever for anyone, for any purpose, for any organization. And that's clear. And people who know me will say that.
Thank you. The next question, starting again with you, Brad, is what policy or structural changes to the existing bar rules or governance would you view as a priority in your presidency?
I respect the rules and policies of the DC bar, and I intend to protect them. I think the governance structure and the rules have worked. Most importantly, the bar and its disciplinary process is separate from the leadership of the DC bar. The DC Court of Appeals handles the disciplinary process. The DC bar is the service organization and the administrative organization. They're separate. And most importantly, the bar should never interfere or try to interfere with the disciplinary process. And I will protect that vigorously to ensure that that never happens. It's entirely in the hands of the Court of Appeals, the DC Court of Appeals, and that's where it should belong, in the DC Court of Appeals, not in some DC bar administrative hands. So thank you.
Thank you. Diane, what policy or structural changes to the existing bar rules and governance would you view as a priority during your presidency?
Sure, we have a lot to do. We have a rules committee, and obviously, we are always reassessing our rules as issues come up. We updated our bylaws recently. I think it was in January 24. The Court of Appeals adopted new rules, and I think it was the first time we had just done a complete overhaul of rules. I mean, suggestions, obviously, in like 50 years. So I would say that's a pretty recently accomplished. Accomplishment. And I don't know that anything has come up that urgently suggests we have to look at everything again so soon. But if there are things that aren't working and we need to figure out why, then I would say we revise our bylaws. I mean, we looked at the bylaws a few years ago with respect to, for example, the number of candidates who we require to run for board and president positions. So these things do come up from time to time, but I don't see the need for any other big overhaul at this time.
Thank you. I believe you've both mentioned or made reference to at this point the fact that obviously the DC Bar is a mandatory bar association. So Diane, our next question is that if you were elected president, how would you protect the DC Bar from challenges to mandatory bar associations as a general paradigm?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean or what's meant by challenges. I mean, we have to exist, right? Like, I mean, we are a bar and we are mandatory, and you can't work if you're not licensed by us. Challenges, if you mean things like executive orders, that's the challenge I see. I don't think you mean we don't need protection from other challenges like financial challenges or things like that. So how are the other firms or the other targets of executive orders handling things? That's what I would say. We have to do the same thing. We fight them. They're unconstitutional. They're unlawful. And we're lawyers, so we figure that out. But it's a little abstract to me. I hope it never happens. I understand it's a topic that people worry about. So my attitude is we stand for the rule of law, and we stand up for our bar's continued existence.
So you have about a minute left on the clock for this answer, and I'll try to clarify the question a little bit as I understand it. It was submitted by an audience member, so I could be off base, but I took it to mean challenges in the form of there's some discussion as to whether or not a mandatory bar should exist, whether lawyers should be obligated to pay dues to a bar association or the practice, much like there are challenges to mandatory union memberships. That's how I understood the question to be, and given that it's just us here, we'll say that's the clarification question. You have a minute left if you'd like to speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to imagine that challenge with almost 121,000 people. I don't know how that would work or happen or how we would become, I don't know what the word is, eviscerated, how the bar would cease to exist. So it's hard for me to imagine the form of that kind of challenge and how it would even manifest or play out. So I have to say this is just not something I have worried about.
Thank you. Brad, the same question, you can choose to respond to my clarification or you see fit, but how will you protect the DC Bar from challenges to mandatory bar associations?
Sure. No, I think it's a great question, and want to pause on this because the DC Bar was set up by the DC Court of Appeals many, many years ago as sort of the administrator for dues, for activities to put on CLEs and the like. It's a mandatory bar association, meaning if you wish to practice in DC, you have to be a member of the DC Bar. Some have said, look, you should go to a voluntary bar association and the like here. The DC Bar has actually worked very well. But one important, and this is so important because this is where the nuance is missed. The importance of a mandatory bar association is the bar has to remain apolitical, nonpartisan, non-political. That's the rule of law that's important here. That's the rule of law that needs to be protected here. And that's something that is stark contrast between my position and that of my opponent. I don't want the bar to be political. I don't want it to be political. It shouldn't be political, and it cannot be political. It's why you don't see statements from the current DC Bar president, or the former one, or the president-elect, or any of the other leadership of the DC Bar because it is prohibited to get into political issues. Now, that's not to mean that free speech can't operate within the communities. And I respect and believe in free speech within the communities. But the bar itself is a non-political organization. And I will fight vigorously in the same vigor and zealous advocacy that I do to protect clients, to protect this bar from becoming the political organization that my opponent wants it to be. It's not a political organization. And that's the difference between a mandatory bar association and one that's voluntary.
Thank you. Shifting gears a bit with our next question, and I particularly like this question as a lawyer in DC who follows with interests DC affairs. Brad, beginning with you, do you support the creation of specially licensed legal professionals who qualify to do in-court legal aid for moderate income folks? And I'll clarify again, my understanding of this question is people who are not lawyers, but are otherwise proposed to be trained and permitted to render aid to moderate income folks in the court. So Brad, we'll start with you.
No, I think it's a heartfelt idea that really could open the doors for justice for so many who feel left out. And I've seen that through my own pro bono work, how desperate families are looking for help, whether it's a housing dispute or a custody dispute. And this could be a way to help those in need. But we would need to ensure that these professionals are well trained with some oversight from the bar and the DC Court of Appeals to maintain the high standards of our professional demands. I bring members together to study this carefully here, ensuring that it supports member lawyers while serving those in needs. I think it's a great idea. It's something we definitely should explore, but I think we should study it a little bit more and make sure there's guardrails and parameters to protect the clients and to protect everyone involved.
Thank you. Diane, the same question. Do you support the creation of specifically licensed legal professionals who qualify to do in-court legal aid for moderate income people?
I think it's a great idea. I think that like anyone who is a paraprofessional or a paralegal or a law clerk or even someone who's just less experienced, it's got to be under the supervision of someone who is more experienced. And that would, I mean, but this would increase access to justice. You know, there are people, I think we all know who does a lot of the work right now is not necessarily, or not necessarily lawyers, but people who work with, who are lawyer adjacent, who work with lawyers. So we're already doing this. Why not find a way to make it so that the people who are doing the work can get the credit and can give back and volunteer in this meaningful way? I don't know what it looks like to create a licensure process, but if there are other states that have done that, I would hope that we could talk to them and say, hey, you did a pretty good thing. Can we meet with you and find out how you did it? How did you, how does it work? What works, what doesn't? So again, I'm not a fan of acting like I know everything. I do like to ask questions of people who do and who have that experience. But I think in theory, it's a great idea with the right supervision and after the right conversations with people who've already been doing it.
Thank you. We are doing terrifically well on time, I'm happy to report. So I have one more question on my list for you both. I would ask that we, again, please keep the response to 2 minutes apiece, as you've both done a fantastic job of doing. And then we will transition into some of the Q&A we've received from our audience during tonight's session. So I'm going to ask the question, beginning with you, Diane, exactly as it was submitted to me, and that is, are you going to politicize the DC Bar?
Well, despite my opponent's numerous attacks on me this evening and unprecedented accusations that I have politicized this election or the bar, everyone knows I have not. You can look at anything I have said, anything I have put on my website, anything I have put in writing. I have said nothing political. Do I have a great deal of support in a city that is full of lawyers, lobbyists, politicians, people who work in those fields? Of course I do. People care about the rule of law, and people have been very vocal in their support of me and their appreciation that I talk about it all the time, because that's what matters, is the rule of law. But I challenge anyone to find a quote that came from my computer or my mouth that has made anything about this bar election political. I have run on my merits, on my experience, on my knowledge of the bar, of my knowledge of people who lead the bar, both on the staff level and on the volunteer level. And in the fact that I have been a lawyer, a member of the DC Bar since 1992, and have done a lot and been involved in a lot of ways for a lot of years. That's why I'm running, and that I was asked to run. Of course, that matters too. But because of my experience, because of my commitment to the bar, and because I really care about our members and I really love the things this bar offers, that's what my platform has been, and making sure lawyers feel safe and that judges can be impartial and not have to worry, that no one has to worry about political retaliation for the things they do or the people they represent. So I think the answer is very clear. I am happy to just be a volunteer leader, and that's what I intend to do. And that's what I've been doing.
Thank you. And Brad, the same question to you. Are you going to politicize the DC Bar?
Absolutely 100% no. I'm not going to politicize the DC Bar. My whole campaign is about the opposite, keeping it a sanctuary for all of our members, no matter what our backgrounds and beliefs. All through my entire career, I have never been a political advocate. I don't write about politics or tweet about it or get on any soapbox. My work is in the courtroom and in the classroom and with the bar and caring for my family. The bar's mission calls us to be nonpartisan, and I'll honor that with every ounce of my heart, because our job is to serve every lawyer, not to take sides in political fights. I've spent 26 years bridging together different groups, mentoring, teaching, serving in bipartisan organizations like the Atlantic Council and the Congressional Coalition on Adoption Institute. And I've never been one for political debates. My life is in the courtroom, classroom, and with my immediate family. I'm running to focus on service, to help improve the bar for free CLEs, more pro bono opportunities, and a better ethics hotline, not to drag us into division. I want to keep the bar true to its calling, a home where we lift each other up, not tear each other down.
Thank you. And that concludes the pre-submitted questions that we had for you both this evening. I have been eyeballing our Q&A submissions as they have been coming in. So I'd like to ask a few of those to you both before we move on to our closing statements. The first question I will ask, which Brad, we will start with you on this one in keeping with our same order. Again, I believe you both touched on this generally or perhaps specifically in some instances, but if you'd like to expand, the question is, what type of pro bono work have you engaged in and with what organizations? So Brad, we'll start with you and you have 90 seconds, a minute and 30 seconds.
Sure, absolutely. I've been involved extensively in pro bono. Much of my focus recently has been around veterans and veteran groups. But I've also been involved in pro bono areas involving adoption and foster care. I served on the board of the Congressional Coalition on Adoption Institute. I've mentored lawyers here at the firm on all sorts of different pro bono, from veterans issues to housing issues to even asylum issues here. I believe strongly in a pro bono, and I support pro bono of all different types.
Can't hear you, Eric.
Man, I made it almost a whole hour without forgetting to unmute myself. Next time. The same question to you, Diane.
Yeah.
What type of pro bono work have you engaged in and with what organizations?
So my pro bono path's a little different. I'm a solo practitioner. So to me, what I have always felt most comfortable doing are serving on committees, serving on the board, teaching CLEs. And I have it's on my website. You could see there's a long history of that kind of engagement. That just works well for me as a solo. I like when I can prepare for a CLE and teach and, get ready for it that way. That's my path. Obviously serving on committees, chairing committees, being on the board, being on the executive committee, it takes a lot of time. And that is how I like to give back to our legal community. Everyone's different. Um, and I don't think we should judge who does what as long as you're doing something and where you're giving matters. My service has been almost exclusively to the DC bar since about 2012. And before that, I did a lot for the ABA in different leadership positions there. Um, and I have some other interests and times, things that I give my time to, such as Free Mom Hugs, which is a allyship for parents of LGBTQ children. And I have been an EMT where I volunteered at our fire department locally. So I've been a little more diverse in how I've given back.
Thank you. The next question I'll ask, I believe, should be relatively short answers for you both. Diane, with you beginning. The question is, has either candidate previously run for this position? So I take that to be obviously the presidency of the bar. So Diane, we'll start with you.
I have not.
All right. And Brad, you have 90 seconds if you'd like them, but it turns to you.
No.
Very good. All right, so one more question then for you, and we'll move into closings. I'm going to take a moment of privilege since I was asked to do this job and submit my own Q&A question for you both on the fly. So obviously, as a member of the ECLC steering committee, I'm very interested in the bar and how it views the role of the next generation of lawyers and what that means to the practice of law. So Brad, we'll start with you, but can you speak to how you view the importance of the next generation of lawyers to our profession and also to the bar specifically?
Next generation is the future of the bar. I have taught at law schools in DC since around 2002, 2003. I started teaching at Catholic University. I taught a class called Professional Sports in the Law. I hope some of my students are out there listening. Some of them have gotten in touch with me and been very supportive. Then I started teaching securities law in 2008 at George Mason Law School, and then 2009, Georgetown Law School. So younger lawyers are the importance and they're the future of the bar. I love this profession. I love being a lawyer. I love what it stands for. I'm proud to be a lawyer. And I love teaching younger lawyers, mentoring younger lawyers, and encouraging them to become lawyers, to get involved in the bar, and to stand up for what's right, and to stand up for the rule of law. Those are areas that are extraordinarily important to me, and I believe in them. And Eric, you're doing a great job in your position at the bar, and encouraging young lawyers to get involved more with the bar. I got involved in the bar shortly after I got to DC in 2000. I was a young associate at Williams and Conley. The bar used to be near my office, and I used to walk down to different programs, lunch programs, dinner programs, skills programs. I learned how to take depositions by the multi-class deposition program in the DC bar.
Brad,
the programming and services were so great. Sorry, Eric, to drone on and on, but I love what the bar does for members, and young members are the absolute future of the bar.
Apologies for interrupting on my own question. But Diane, the same.
Great question.
Can you speak to the importance, in your view, of the next generation of lawyers to both the profession and the Bar Association?
Yeah. They're going to take over and run the world. I have been an adjunct at American University Washington College of Law since 2003. Have certainly met, and I'm still active in my alma mater, certainly have met people in that generation, and they're motivated. My kids are Gen Z, so plug for them too. They're not lawyers. But that generation has so much energy, and they care about social justice, and they care about making a difference. And they're not only just about making money. Not that there's anything wrong with making money, there's not, but they really do have, loftier goals than that, which is cool to watch. And will stand up for what matters to them. So I love getting them engaged. I love that we have the early career lawyers community now, where newer lawyers don't, can get involved and don't have to feel that they have to wait till they reach some threshold before they can get involved in doing things and volunteering for the bar. So I'm a fan and love the engagement, and see it on our board already. We have younger lawyers, and I think that's a great mix. We get different views, different energy.
Thank you. So now we have about 5 minutes left, so I'd like to transition us into your closing statements before I briefly conclude with a few reminders about the election cycle and the process for voting. By virtue of the order we began with, Diane, you went second, so for closing, we will have you go first. The floor is yours with 2 minutes.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks to everyone for being here. I know it's time to eat, or you're tired, or it's the end of the day, and there's probably other things that are important to you. And I appreciate that this was more important than anything else you had going on, and that you made the time to come listen. I hope you understand what's important to me is what's going to be important to the bar, and what's important to the bar is what's important to me. And I should have probably said that in reverse now that I'm hearing it out loud. But the bar's concerns matter, and the concerns that I am hearing when I talk to people, when I go to meetings, when I get emails, when I get phone calls, are literally, please save democracy. And, okay, we'll do that together. But the way we're going to do it is to stand up for each other and to make each other feel that it's okay to practice law, and we don't have to worry about anything except, like I said last week, that you didn't catch a case you should have, found, or that, you didn't rehearse enough. I don't think those are issues that face too many members of our bar. We're pretty high functioning overachievers for the most part. So what I want to do, and what I want to make everyone feel comfortable doing, is practice law like I've been, and not have to worry about anything else, and know that the bar will support all of us in that endeavor, and will take whatever action we can so that people don't have to worry about anything other than the case they didn't catch, or do I have enough hours, do I have enough work that I like, that kind of thing. We are a very active, engaged bar. We offer a lot. Everyone knows this, and you could see from our website all of the things we do, all of the opportunities we have. And my goal, like everyone before me, is, because we care about this bar, we want to see everyone take advantage of what we offer. We want to see our members engaged, and we want to continue to have leadership be made up of people who really prioritize and care about the bar and how it functions. And that would be me.
Thank you. And Brad, we will turn to you now. 2 minutes for your closing statement, please.
Thank you. The options in this election are clear, and the leadership styles couldn't be more different. I'm running to keep the bar focused on service, on helping every lawyer, from big law to solo practitioner, do their work more effectively, no matter their beliefs. My opponent's vision, driven by our allies' political attacks, will drag the bar into a quagmire of partisanship, where every election becomes a battleground for the cultural wars or the latest political storms. And we've seen what happens when institutions give in to this temptation to be political. They lose their credibility, their unity, and their ability to serve everyone. For the bar, that would be a tragedy, turning a place of professional support into a political weapon, leaving us fractured and unable to return to the impartiality that defines us. I asked my opponent just last week if she would join me in a public pledge where we would each work to protect the bar's non-political mission. She refused and insisted that she would do as she pleased. The bar's own election guidance given to each of the candidates reiterates that the bar is a, quote, nonpartisan, apolitical organization. And yet my opponent has ignored that. I even asked if she would disavow the despicable attacks that her allies have made on my family and me, or the ugly insinuation that I'm somehow leading some conspiracy to overthrow democracy. She wouldn't do that either. Instead, she posted on her social media claims that I was involved in a conspiracy to destroy the rule of law and was an existential threat to the country. My own that my George Conway's post. that my own children saw and read.
You just said that I did it.
You know,
What?
yeah, you
And Brad,
posted.
I'm gonna cut you both
finish.
off.
Let me finish. There's a repost of
Brad, your time is, I'm gonna cut you off. I'm sorry. It is 7 o'clock. Thank you both very much for your time today. I appreciate the conversation. Our audience members, thank you for joining us. We hope that you found tonight's program beneficial. A few quick reminders about the election. Voting is open now through June 4th. There are going to be links placed in the Zoom chat for reference for anybody who needs them. You may vote by logging into the bar website with your login credentials. You also should have received an email from the Bar Association with a link, a customized link to vote on your own ballot. Additionally, you may learn more about our candidates and their platforms by visiting the Bar's 2025 election page on their website. And with that, again, Diane, Brad, thank you very much for your participation this evening. Thank you to our audience for joining us, and I wish you all a good evening.